Hey guys, welcome to What Should I Play? And today we're going to do something a little different. It's the last day of spring 2015, so I'm going to share with you my spring pickups. I'll start off with the video games. My first pickup was Final Fantasy X and X2 for the PlayStation Vita. My fiance and I do the e-rewards surveys for GameStop gift cards, and we finally saved up enough points for one, so I picked up Final Fantasy X and X2 to play on my Vita. I have both for the PS2, but I just find RPGs so much easier to play on the go, to pick up and put down whenever you can. They can be so long that unless you can play them wherever and whenever, it's tough to get through them. I'm pretty happy with the conversion to the Vita. The only thing I'm not quite thrilled with is that X2 was included as a DLC game. When you purchase the copy, there's a code in here to download X2, and it's not on the disc. So not quite what I was expecting, but either way, it's still pretty good. My next pickups, I went to the Digital Press Gaming Store in Clifton, New Jersey, and I picked up some older stuff. First up was Pokemon the Trading Card Game for the Game Boy Color. This is a lot harder than I remembered it being. I don't know if it's just me or if I had a lot more patience as a kid, but trying to beat some of these trainers, the computer just did not want to draw me the right cards. I played a little bit of it, but maybe I'll go back to it sometime later. Next up is Metal Gear on the Game Boy Color. This is actually the last Metal Gear game outside of the remakes and re-releases that I've been missing from my collection. So now I have a mostly complete Metal Gear collection. So I'm looking forward to checking this out. I've heard it's really good. Now, to get in the mood for the Avengers, I picked up Captain America and the Avengers for the Super Nintendo, where you can play as Captain America, Iron Man, Hawkeye, or Vision, which was perfect to play before going to see Age of Ultron. Again, difficult game. It's not a great port, but to be able to play as those characters and switch back and forth between them was a lot of fun. Around this time, there wasn't a lot of interest in Hawkeye or Vision, so you didn't see them in too many games. It was great to check them out in this. Picked up an NES game that I didn't have, Hogan's Alley. This is a light gun game. It was one of the early release NES games. I actually have a CRT TV that I can hook up to play this, so when I get around to digging it out of the bottom of my closet, I'll hook it up and check it out. I do remember playing it as a kid. It's kind of a shooting gallery type game with different modes. It's a lot of fun. There's not too much substance to it, but it's fun to toy around with. My last pickup from Digital Press was Advance Wars on the Game Boy Advance. Now, it didn't come with this box. This is something I put together. Maybe in the future I'll do a how-to on how to put these cases together for Game Boy Advance games. But again, this is the last game in the Advance Wars series of those that were released in the US that I needed to finish off my collection. So now I have every US released Advance Wars series game. And I love them. They're a lot of fun. They're a great strategy RPG, great for beginners, and I actually think this is one of my favorites in the series. It's not quite as in-depth and complex, which can be a good thing. I like that the missions in this game are a lot simpler. In some of the later games, you have complicated missions where you have to, destroy a certain target or fight an enemy that has some ridiculous world-wiping weapon. But this keeps it simple, and it's one-on-one for the most part, commander on commander, just straight out War. My next pickup were from GameStop. This is Turning Point Fall of Liberty for the PlayStation 3. And I actually heard about this on a recent episode of the Laser Time Network podcast, Video Game Apocalypse. They did a segment on their favorite alternate reality or alternate timeline games. They talked about this. It takes place in the 50s, where the Americans had never helped out in the European theater of World War II, and England was overrun by the Germans, and they finally make landfall in the U.S. It didn't get great reviews, but from how everyone was talking about it on Video Game Apocalypse, it sounds like it's fun and definitely worth checking out. So this is going in my backlog, and hopefully I'll get to it sooner rather than later. And also, check out the Laser Time Network podcasts. They're great. They're a lot of fun. They cover a lot of the same subjects that I talk about. So check them out. My next pickup from GameStop was Modern Warfare 3. I am not a huge first-person shooter fan, as I talked about in my Red Faction video, but I do enjoy the Call of Duty games for their story. So I just wait for them to get super cheap and pick them up then. I think this was like $6 or something. You can't beat that for the quality game it is. I know a lot of people bash the Call of Duty games because they're so mainstream, but they are some of the best produced games that I think I've played. Alright, so now into some of the gaming hardware that I picked up. I picked up an Elgato video capture card. I picked this up specifically to do this channel. I wasn't sure how I would enjoy filming videos on a weekly basis, so I wanted to go for the cheaper option, the more expensive being the HD capture card. So I went with the Elgato video capture, and it's working out pretty well. I am having some technical difficulties recording off of my Sega Genesis. I've been emailing back and forth with their tech support, and they've even been returning my emails on Memorial Day, which is kind of impressive. Next up, kind of ties into the video capture card. These are the Retrobit AV cables for the Genesis 2. I thought the problem that I was having with my Genesis is that it was because I was recording it daisy-chained through a VCR because I only had RF cables for it. So I picked up some of the Retrobit AV cables from Amazon. They were not too expensive, great buy. And one of the things that I didn't know, and this actually changed my opinion on third-party hardware, I always try and get first-party stuff when I can, just because the quality is a little bit better. But at this point, for older stuff, first-party hardware, you're going to be paying a reseller or someone on eBay and not contributing to the original manufacturer. And I didn't realize this until after I bought it, but there's this little note here on the side of the package that a portion of the proceeds generated from this purchase will be donated to the foundation providing free school supplies to kids in need. So that's a great cause, and if buying video game stuff can help out kids, I say go for it. Check out Retrobit on Facebook, and check out Kids in Need Foundation at www.kinf.org. Next up is the Kinvo 5-to-1 HDMI splitter. I have run out of HDMI inputs on my TV in my living room to hook things up to. So I went out and searched for the best HDMI splitter I could find, and the Kinvo had everything that I wanted. It supports up to 1080p, it's HDCP compatible, and it supports 3D, which is a plus. Also, it's got an IR remote, which is good because it allows me to set it up with my Logitech Harmony 650 universal remote, so that I can have everything one button, push button, get stuff up and running as soon as I want it. I don't have to sort through the TV and set the TV input to 1 and the HDMI splitter to channel 3 and turn off the cable box. The Harmony remote, one button does everything, so that's great too. I would recommend that. Last up for video game hardware is the Retron 5. I had wanted to get one of these when they first came out, but when the reviews came out, they weren't too great. There was a lot of problems with the connectors being too snug, and they were potentially damaging the pins of the game cartridges. So I waited a little bit, and Hyperkin revised their design a little bit. They came out with the next gen version of the Retron 5, and the connectors are still a little snug, but they're a lot better than some of the reviews I've read. The console itself is great. It feels, sturdy and well put together. It booted right up as soon as I got it. No need to go through menus and setups and whatnot. The only thing I don't like is the controller. The joystick on it is just way too clicky. The noise is almost so distracting that it takes away from playing the game. So fortunately, there are controller ports for NES, SNES, and Genesis. So I have been trying to stick to those as much as possible. Okay, so out of the game stuff, here's some other geek stuff that I picked up. I picked up Legends of Korra Book 4 Balance on Blu-ray, and this is the final season of The Legend of Korra, which is a spin-off of Avatar: The Last Airbender, and this show is great. I think I actually liked this better than the original Avatar. The characters were great, the animation is beautiful, and I really like the storyline. So I have the first 3 seasons of this, and this completes my Legend of Korra collection. Hopefully they bring back the story and release another series based on maybe the next generation Avatar, or even a flashback to one of the older generations of Avatar. So definitely check out Legends of Korra. Next up, to get excited for Fast 7, I picked up Fast and Furious 6 on Blu-ray. My wife hadn't seen it, and we were going to watch Fast and Furious 7, so I picked this up and we watched it the night before. This is great. I think this is one of my favorites in the series. Probably top 3 of the 7 that are out so far. So this movie's a lot of fun. There's a lot of Fast and Furious haters, but you know what? It's an action movie. It's meant to be fun. You're not meant to do a in-depth analysis on it. So take it for what it's worth and just enjoy it. So next I picked up some toys this past season. First up is the Bandai Tamashii Nations SH Figuarts Android number 16 to go with my Dragon Ball figures. The SH Figuarts figures are excellent. They're always so well sculpted and beautifully put together. So many different parts. There's, I think, 3 different faces for Android 16, a 4th if you count the full head swap. And so about the figure, the sculpting, like I said, is great. I love the paint. The color choices are excellent. I love the nice glossy lime green for the main armor sections, and the flat gray for the undersuit. The one thing that I'm not thrilled with is the leg articulation on Android 16. You don't get a thigh articulation or a boot articulation, so it's kind of tough to position him standing up. The figure has booted feet, and it would have been so easy for them to put a swivel in there. I don't know why they did. So he's a great sculpt. He goes well with my Gokus and my Piccolo figure, but he's a little tough to pose. So just a heads up if you're thinking of picking him up. Also, I have the re-release of the SH Figuarts Gohan figure on pre-order. It was supposed to be released in May. I've seen online some people are getting their delivery already, but mine hasn't come in yet. So next time you'll see Gohan. Next up, also kind of going back to Age of Ultron, I picked up the Lego Marvel Superheroes Hulkbuster vs. Hulk set. the Hulkbuster Smash. It's a nice small kit. I think it was about $30, but you get 3 minifigs, a big fig of the Hulk, and the Hulkbuster. The real reason I got this, a lot of people are going to be picking this up for the Hulkbuster, which in the movie was awesome. But as far as this kit goes, I wasn't thrilled with the Hulkbuster figure itself. It's a little too big, out of scale with the minifigs and the big figs. The reason I got this was for the Hulk big fig. Up to now, all the Hulk figures have been in larger sets, so it's really tough to get just a Hulk unless you're willing to spend $60 or $70. I have been collecting some of the Marvel Lego figs. I'd like to get a complete set, or at least as many characters as I can, so I can finally add the Hulk and actually Scarlet Witch to my Team Avengers, and there's an Ultron Prime in here also, which I can add to my Lego Marvel Rogues Gallery. So along with the Lego Marvel figures, I collect the Marvel Legends 6-inch scale Marvel figures. And I kind of have running sets going of the Avengers and the X-Men, who are two of my favorite teams. So I picked up a few from the latest series of Marvel Legends. And Hasbro has really been knocking it out of the park with the figures lately. When they first took over for Toy Biz back in 2007, the quality was not that great, but at this point they're hitting it out of the park with almost every figure they release. So the first one I got was Nova, who's actually from the Guardians of the Galaxy series that was released a few years ago in conjunction with the movie. Nova was, I think, the hardest to find. I have only seen him once, and I bought him. I'm not too familiar with him as a character, but I love the figure. The blue paint details on him are absolutely perfect, and he looks great posed with the rest of my Avengers. The next ones I picked up are actually from the most recent Spider-Man series that were released. First up was Daredevil. And this is great because the Daredevil series was just recently released on Netflix. So I think the day before the series was released, I found this figure. So that got me super hyped up for the series, which is excellent as well. But the Daredevil figure is one of the best figures I've seen. The one thing I don't like is his batons. They're a little big and too flexible for my taste. So I'll see if I can find something else to swap them out with. Otherwise, it's a great Daredevil figure. I also picked up a comic version Spider-Man figure. With all of the Amazing Spider-Man movies that have been coming out the past few years, it's been pretty tough to find an actual comic version Spider-Man, and this one is excellent. He's mostly known on the web as Pizza Spidey because he comes with a slice of pizza and a separate head sculpt with his mask half pulled up, grinning like an idiot. But I really like this figure. He's great. He's super easy to pose, to get into fun poses. He's not my favorite Spider-Man figure. I have a symbiote-suited Spider-Man from sometime in the late 90s, early 2000s. I think he was a Toy Biz release of a Secret Wars line, but he's by far the most posable Spidey figure I have. And last figure was the Spider-Girl figure. Now, Spider-Girl, she, again, is not one of the most posable figures, but this figure has a lot of sentimentality towards me. When I was first starting to read comics, Marvel was releasing their MC2 imprint line, which was supposed to be a look into the future of the Marvel Comics heroes, and they were all new number ones. So actually the first trip I made to the comic book store when I was a kid was to pick up J2 number 1, A-Next number 1, I believe Wild Thing number 1, and Spider-Girl number 1. And of those, Spider-Girl lasted the longest. It's the one that I stuck with the longest. So I really credit Spider-Girl of all series with really getting me into comics and into reading Marvel imprint stuff. Next up, I hit up the bookstore and picked up a few things. First is The Great Beanie Baby Bubble by Zach Bissonette. I was a Beanie Baby collector when I was younger. Now that they're not worth anything, they sit in a bin in my parents' attic. But I like to read books about collecting various things, just for the collecting perspective in general. A lot of people talk about video game collecting and how if there's a bubble coming or whatnot. So sometimes looking at other collectibles, you can kind of get an idea of where your main collectible hobby is heading. So this is on my read list. I'm going to check this out, and I'll let you guys know how it is. I also picked up The Gunslinger by Stephen King. This is one of the Dark Tower series books. Whenever I see a thread on the internet, either on Reddit or Twitter or anything like that, about what book series would you want to see made into a movie, so many people respond the Dark Tower series. And I've been in kind of a mood to check out a new book series, so I figured I'd give The Gunslinger a shot. So this is going to be coming up next in my reading list. Right now I'm reading through Mary Shelley's Frankenstein, which I've never read before. It's pretty good. I'm enjoying it. The next book I picked up is the Walter Isaacson Einstein biography. I read the Steve Jobs biography, also by Walter Isaacson, and I really liked it. I'm kind of drawn to biographies of inventors or famous scientists, so I picked this one up because Albert Einstein is definitely someone that I'd like to learn a little bit more about. Lastly, Free Comic Book Day happened a few weeks ago, so I hit up my local comic store and picked up some free books, and I also spent some money there to help support them. I picked up the all-new, all-different Avengers. This is a team built of Avengers that takes place in the post-Secret War event that's going on right now. So you've got Miles Morales, Ms. Marvel, Nova, Vision, Falcon Cap, and an as yet unknown Iron Man. They don't really explain who he is, so we'll see how that all shakes out after Secret Wars. Next one was Secret Wars number 0. This kind of gives a little bit of the background of the Secret Wars event. It's more of a side story involving the kids of Reed and Sue from the Fantastic Four. And they're kind of building an arc to get themselves off this colliding planet that Secret Wars is taking place on. I don't know if I'm completely sold on Secret Wars based on this, but I'll probably read it in a few months when it's all out and done. Next pickup was the Street Fighter comic by Udon and Capcom. I really liked this one. I think this was probably my favorite pickup from Free Comic Book Day. The art is fantastic. I really love the Capcom style. There's several different artists, actually, and the premise of the story covers about a half dozen or so different battles, and it kind of shows how the nature of being a Street Fighter is cyclical, where there's always going to be somebody better than you, and you're always going to beat somebody. So definitely, if you can find this one, pick this up, because it is great to have both from a comic perspective and a gaming perspective. My last two pickups were the Avatar and Doctor Who books. I didn't read these yet. These were more for my wife. I'll probably check out the Avatar one and maybe look through the Doctor Who one. The Avatar one is actually split into a third. There's actually 2 other stories in the book, Plants vs. Zombies and Bandette. So that takes up the majority of the book. But it's a little Avatar side story, so you can never get too much Avatar. So my purchases at the comic book store, I picked up Uncanny X-Men 205 and 206. I have been trying to complete my back catalog of Uncanny X-Men, specifically the run from 200 to 300. I have about 95 issues from that arc, so there's only a few left to finish that off, and then I'll probably move on to the 300 to 400, filling in the holes that I have there. And my last pickup was Batman R.I.P. I tend to not buy as many Marvel graphic novels because I subscribe to Marvel Comics Unlimited, which is excellent to read and catch up on stories on your iPad or your phone or even your computer. DC, as far as I know, doesn't have a service like that, so to catch up on stories, I will go and grab graphic novels. And I don't particularly care too much if I'm up to date with DC stuff. The only one I really care about from there is Batman. I admit it, I'm more of a Marvel guy. But Batman R.I.P. is the next one I'm going to check out from them. The last thing I picked up was actually for my game room. I stopped by IKEA and I picked up two of the Deltoff display cabinets, which are really nice glass display cabinets. I have them off camera or here, that's why I keep looking. And I'll show some close-ups of them. They go together really easy. I also picked up the dioder light kits, which were on sale for $10 off, which equates to, I think, 33%. So they're normally 30, they were on sale for 20. So if you can get there and pick those up now, now would be the time to do it. Also, for my living room game setup, I picked up the color dioders. So these, there's 4 bars. It comes with either brackets that screw into place or adhesive tape. And these light up and have a dial so you can change the color. You have your full rainbow, red, blue, green, yellow, indigo. You can also set it to smoothly transition from one color to the next, and it'll kind of just go through on a loop, or there's an abrupt change where it flashes the different colors. I actually saw these on Nintendo Collecting's website. He's setting up his new game room, so he got a set of these and they looked really cool. So I figured I would pick them up too while I was at IKEA. These were also on sale for $10 off. They're a little more expensive than the bright white ones that are in the cabinet, but definitely still a good deal. And check out Nintendo Collecting's YouTube channel. He's got a lot of great tips about setting up your game room and how to display and collect all kinds of games. So guys, those are my spring pickups for 2015. Did you get anything this season that you want to share? Let me know in the comments below. Next week we'll be back with another game for you to check out. Hit me up in the comments, like me on Facebook, follow me on Twitter, subscribe please, and we'll see you next time. Sometime in the late